6 questions that reveal your true personality. The person you think you are isn't real. It's a performance. And in the next few minutes, 6 questions are going to show you who's underneath. Every single day, you put on a version of yourself built for other people. There's the employee version, the friend version, the family version, the version you use online. Each one is polished. Each one is convenient. It's not exactly fake, but it's not fully you either. Underneath all of that is a quieter self, one that doesn't perform, one that doesn't need an audience. It only shows up when no one's watching, or when you're pushed past the point where performing is even possible anymore. Psychologists have a name for the space between these two versions of you. They call it the gap between your presented personality and your core personality. Your presented personality is the one you manage, the one shaped by fear of judgment, by habit, by what's rewarded and what's punished. Your core personality is what's left when none of that matters anymore. Here's the uncomfortable part. Most people never close that gap. They spend their entire life managing an image instead of understanding what's underneath it. They mistake the mask for the face. They build careers, relationships, even entire identities on top of a version of themselves they never actually chose. They just absorbed it, piece by piece, from everyone around them. That ends today. These 6 questions are built to bypass the performance completely. They're not personality trivia. They're not the kind of quiz you forget 5 minutes later. Each one is designed to corner you, gently but directly, until the honest answer is the only one left standing. Answer these for real, out loud or on paper, and you will know more about who you actually are in the next few minutes than you have in years of drifting through your own life on autopilot. Let's start with the first one, and it's the most revealing question on this entire list. Question 1. What do you do when no one is watching? Not what you post. Not what you say in meetings. Not the version of you that shows up when there's an audience, even a small one. What do you actually do in the moments when there is zero possibility of being seen, judged, or praised? Do you keep the promises you make to yourself, or do you quietly let them slide the second no one would notice? Do you cut corners when there's no risk of getting caught? Do you rest without guilt? Or does stillness make you anxious because you've tied your entire worth to being productive? Do you tell yourself the truth in those private moments? Or do you keep performing even when the audience has left the room? This matters because character isn't what you do under observation. Observation changes behavior. That's basic psychology. Real character is what survives when the incentive to perform disappears completely. Most people have never once sat down and looked at this honestly, because it's uncomfortable. It asks you to separate who you actually are from who you've been pretending to be for so long that the line has blurred. Sit with this one before moving forward. Write down the first honest answer that comes to mind, not the flattering one. Now for question 2, and this one is going to sting a little. That's intentional. Question 2. What do you get defensive about? Think back to the last time you got defensive. Not angry, defensive. That fast, sharp, almost automatic reaction to a comment that logically shouldn't have bothered you at all. Maybe it was a joke that landed wrong. Maybe it was feedback at work. Maybe it was something a partner or a friend said in passing. Something small, and yet you felt your whole body tighten before your mind even caught up. Defensiveness is never random. It's a signal, and it's an incredibly precise one. It points directly at the beliefs you're protecting about yourself, the parts of your identity you haven't fully accepted, the insecurities you've buried under confidence you don't quite feel yet. You don't get defensive about things you're genuinely secure in. Nobody flinches when someone questions a fact they know with total certainty. You only flinch where the ground is unstable. You only defend the places where, somewhere deep down, you suspect the criticism might be true. So ask yourself honestly, what topics make you shut down a conversation instead of engage with it? What feedback do you reject instantly without even considering it? That reaction is a map, and it's pointing straight at something worth examining. Let's move to question 3, and this one takes you further back than the other 2. Question 3, what did you love before the world told you what you were supposed to love? Go back, before career advice, before other people's expectations, before you learned what was considered impressive or practical or safe. Think about what you were drawn to before anyone was rewarding you for it. What made you lose track of time as a kid, or even in your early 20s, before responsibility narrowed your options down to what was realistic? That instinct wasn't random, and it wasn't childish either. It's one of the oldest, least edited parts of your identity. Most adults have buried it under 20, 30, even 40 years of decisions made for other people. Decisions made to be impressive, to be employable, to be approved of. Somewhere in there, the original signal gets quiet. It doesn't disappear. It just gets drowned out by everything you were told mattered more. This question isn't asking you to quit your job or blow up your life. It's asking you to notice what's still in there, underneath all the practical decisions, because that unedited interest tells you something true about who you were before you started performing for anyone at all. Now, question 4, and this is where the real self and the performed self usually split hardest. Question 4, how do you actually handle being wrong? Not how you described yourself handling it in an interview, not the version of you that sounds humble and open-minded when you're explaining yourself to other people. How do you actually behave in the moment when the evidence is sitting right in front of you and it says you were mistaken? Do you get quiet and internally combust? Do you argue harder, doubling down out of pure reflex, even as part of you already knows you've lost the point? Do you deflect, change the subject, make a joke to move past it as fast as possible? Or do you actually pause, take in the new information, and update your position, even when it costs you something to admit it? This single behavior predicts more about your relationships, your capacity to grow, and your honest self-image than almost anything else on this list. People who can be wrong without collapsing tend to build real trust, real intimacy, real progress. People who can't tend to spend their whole life protecting a version of themselves that was never that fragile to begin with. They just never tested it. Question 5 is next, and it's about a very specific kind of pressure. Question 5, who are you around the person who scares you the most? Everyone has one. It might be a boss, a parent, an ex, someone from your past whose opinion still somehow outweighs your own, even now. Think about who you become around that specific person. Do you shrink? Do you over-explain yourself? Justify decisions you'd normally never explain to anyone? Do you agree with things you don't actually believe, just to keep the peace? Pay close attention to that reaction, because it's not weakness, and it's not really about that person either. It's information. It's showing you exactly where your sense of self is still borrowed, where your confidence depends on someone else's approval instead of standing on its own. The goal isn't to eliminate that person from your life or pretend they don't affect you. The goal is to notice the pattern, because once you can see it clearly, it starts to lose some of its grip. And now the 6th and final question. This is the one that matters most, and it's the one most people spend their entire life avoiding. Question 6. If no one would ever find out, what would you still do? Strip away recognition completely. No credit, no likes, no applause, no one ever knowing it was you. If the outcome would be exactly the same either way, visible or invisible, what would you still choose to do? Would you still help the person? Would you still finish the project? Would you still tell the truth? Would you still show up, work hard, stay disciplined, treat people well, even knowing that absolutely nobody would ever witness it or reward you for it? That answer, whatever it is the closest thing you have to your true personality. Everything else on this list, the way you act under observation, the image you manage, the identity you perform for approval, all of that is negotiable. It bends depending on who's watching. But that one thing, the thing you'd still do in complete anonymity, isn't negotiable. That's not performance. That's character with nothing to gain from being visible. So here's where that leaves you. 6 questions, 6 honest answers, if you actually let yourself sit with them instead of rushing past. What you do in private, what makes you defensive, what you loved before the world edited you, how you handle being wrong, who you become around the person who scares you, and what you'd still do even if no one ever knew. None of these questions are comfortable, and that's exactly the point. Self-awareness was never supposed to feel good in the moment. It's not designed to flatter you. It's designed to be useful. The discomfort you might have felt answering any one of these is actually a good sign. It usually means you found something real, something you hadn't looked at directly in a long time, maybe ever. If even one of these questions hit closer than you expected, don't let it fade in the next 5 minutes, the way most insights do. Write it down somewhere you'll actually see again. Sit with it tonight instead of immediately distracting yourself. Self-knowledge doesn't come from one video. It comes from actually pausing long enough to let the answer register before life pulls your attention somewhere else. This is exactly the kind of thing this channel is built around. Pulling apart the difference between who you present and who you actually are. One honest question at a time. If that's useful to you, subscribe, because the next video might answer the exact question this one just raised in your head. You don't need to become someone new. You were never supposed to. What you need is to stop performing a version of yourself that was built for everyone else's comfort, and start paying attention to the one that's been quietly waiting underneath it the whole time. 6 questions, 1 real answer.